but this is just a copy of the upcoming 4 concerts and 5 lectures in the month of April. So I just wanted to give those to you. Reviewing not only our Vietnam vets, but also Korea and World War II. So it's just a really neat testament to how the school district is really trying to put their guinea pigs for their teas and luncheons, and then they kind of share with others. But they're wonderful, and they're doing a lot of neat stuff too. And our staff's our staff's learning a lot from them too, as far as integrating the workforce and stuff. So anyhow, it's great stuff, and we appreciate being close neighbors with the school and the Hewitts so that we can take advantage of that. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Any other comments for items not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to, I think we've got a couple of hearings. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll start that off on agenda item number 13. 13A, which is the public hearing for potential purchase of the former Lakeshore Spur, a 3.63 approximately acre area of state-owned discontinued rail corridor, part of the Concord-Lincoln corridor in Laconia. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the March 1st, 2023 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business this evening. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:29 p.m. And if anyone would like to speak to that, now would be the appropriate time. Welcome.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, councilors, Patrick Wood, Ward 3. I strongly support this effort. I think it's a great asset to add to the community's property. I just want to make sure that we do so with our eyes open as to what we're buying and what we're getting with it. And I hope you keep the iron because it has some value, so don't let them take the rails away when you get the property. The other concern I have is there's the bridge across Black Brook, and I hope that when we negotiate with the state that we get some agreement with them that there'll be some cooperation in the efforts that are going to be needed to remove that bridge because that's pretty close to our intake for our water system, and I certainly don't want to have it interfere at all with our water system. So that's just my only concern. I think it's a great idea. There's some other issues that I'm sure you're all going to look at, but I think it's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Hello. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Robin Richardson. My parents own Arroweld. They just recently passed. And I saw this in the paper, and I just wanted to voice an interest in purchasing that segment 5, or at least part of it. I know Irwin had voiced an interest, but I also wanted to, because I already own half, like to the middle of the railroad for the Arroweld property, but the back building, I'd like to extend that.
Okay.
And I'm also concerned about what happens with that walkway and the bridge. It seems to be mostly used by homeless people right now, one of which I ran into Friday night, which was a little uncomfortable.
Sure.
But I just wanted to express that interest. So, thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments in regards to this tract of land? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:31 p.m. Again, we may be taking this matter up under unfinished business later on this evening. Agenda item 13B, which is the public hearing for on Resolution 2023-08, request to submit a grant application to the Federal Emergency Management Agency for a fire prevention and safety grant. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the March 15th, 2023 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun and posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. This matter may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:32 p.m. If anyone would like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing that no one has stepped forward to speak to this, I'll close the public hearing at 7:33 p.m.
Mr. Mayor, if we could just go back, 13B, public hearing.
I apologize.
13B.
Yeah, there was, we skipped
That
one.
was 13C.
Oh, it's stuck.
We skipped one.
I'm gonna go back to 13B. Thank you. Well, that was on 13C. That public hearing is closed. Okay. Good. To clarify, this is agenda item 13B, which is a public hearing for resolution 2023-07, relative to readopting and setting the amounts established for the optional and all veterans property tax credit. Notice of the public hearing was made available in the March 15, 2023 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. I'd like to open the public hearing on this matter at 7:33 PM. And if you'd like to speak to this matter, please step right up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good evening.
council members, Brett Beliveau, Ward Number 5. Just wanted to show up. I'm not sure what the inclination is of the council on this matter. Just over 10,000 residences in Laconia, 735 of them apply for the veterans credit. I might be the only one here speaking on behalf of the veterans tonight, so I am going to be so bold as to assume that I speak for all of us. No matter what our length of service was and what our rank was, we all couldn't have been high-ranking officials, and we all couldn't have done 20 or 30 years like some of us could have. But the $500 veterans tax credit goes a long way for those veterans, especially the ones that need it. And when you really look at it, it's $40 a month, which to some people isn't much money, but to a lot of those veterans, $40 a month is a lot. Never really thought much about it before, looked into it, read the state verbiage on this. Like I said, I'm grateful for the credit that I receive, and I'm sure the other veterans are. I would push that you continue with that. In closing, and I felt bad in the beginning to do this, but after that budget analysis, my numbers don't sound so bad. I'm just wondering why now, if the state allows for a maximum of up to 750, why we haven't pushed it up to 750. It's $20 a month for those 735 people, families that get the money. So it's $183,000 a year. After the budget numbers, I'm missing a couple of decimal places in there. So again, thank you for having it in the past. I hope it continues, and if we can, it would be great to up it.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr. Beliveau. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to this matter? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing, on agenda item 13B on resolution 2023-07.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to announce, YouTube is having issues. It's in and out, so we just wanted to make sure people knew that we are working on it, and hopefully we can get it fixed.
Terrific, thank you.
Katie's fault.
Moving on to agenda item
Big dog.
13D. Public hearing on resolution 2023-09 relative to the acceptance of Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Award, a grant in the amount of $120,000. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the March 15th, 2023 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:30 PM, and if you'd like to speak to this matter, please step forward. Welcome.
Hey, I've got some supplemental information. Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. My name is Tom Cochran from Executive Director, Laconia Housing Redevelopment Authority. Please accept this as a suggestion for the use of the funds received from Invest New Hampshire for municipal assistance for the BPH Blueberry Place development. I gave you a little information about the development of 12-unit development that we're working together with the city. Given the terms of the award, that municipal per unit grant award guidance provides that the eligible Eligible uses can be determined by the city to whatever the city deems necessary. Laconia Housing requests the city provide a portion of the funds to offset cost overruns being realized to complete the development. The Blueberry Place development, a 12 one-bedroom unit of affordable housing project, was made possible from the effective city's administrative planning department's efforts to work with the partners of Laconia Housing and our nonprofit arm, New Hampshire Regional Community Development Corporation, to meet the aggressive Invest New Hampshire time deadline to submit its application. Started in September. We were able to submit our application on time. The efforts provided the necessary gap funding required to secure the funding, along with Meredith Village Savings Bank, Laconia Housing's investment to build affordable housing units. In total, for the 12 units, it cost $3.25 million, $280,000 per unit, of which we received $1.35 million of Invest New Hampshire funding, which was successfully awarded to Laconia Housing as well as the city of Laconia here. The project is moving along well from a timeline basis and is ahead of schedule to be completed by September of 2023, and occupancy in early October. That is 12 new units of secure City of Laconia affordable housing units. As in any current housing development project, unanticipated construction costs due to design or development need has been encountered. For an affordable housing project which has a determined revenue stream, receiving unencumbered assistance from outside sources to offset cost overruns is always a benefit. Some costs outside original construction budget that have been identified or are anticipated to be realized are fencing to establish and prevent walkthrough between us and the Belknap County complex and our neighbors, around $28,000. We have a radon mitigation system, around $7.5. We've had to establish a fire sprinkler system, which is appropriate, around $70,000. Landscaping, residential assistant appliance purchasing, and also Eversource is looking to upgrade the system on premises at this point in time after their review. Also Liberty Utility, city permits and fees that are coming in. As discussed, we have found the city to be a partner throughout this project development, and also when we have approached the planning department for the help with other opportunities to secure affordable housing for the residents. I want to thank you for your consideration on the above suggestion to utilize Invest New Hampshire Municipal Grant Award to offset development costs. I'm also available here to answer any more questions that you have. I provided you the supplement of what the development looks like right now. You can come over on 57 Blueberry Lane. We're already got framework, got trusses, and should be ready to go soon enough to get occupancy, as I said, into October.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Counselor Susie.
I have a question, okay, and excuse my ignorance if I don't understand this, but you had somebody work with you, an estimator, put everything all together, how much this whole project was gonna cost.
Yes.
How did they miss a fire sprinkler system?
Well, I guess it wasn't missed, but essentially their initial requirements were based on what we had at our own development currently at the property. We have our own Pearly Pond development was there, and essentially we built it. It's a single floor property. Essentially, the requirements at the time were laid out, and when we came back to the project, the requirement was appropriate to be in there. At the time, in September, when we put it together, the requirements were that it was first level. It was not established in the project cost at that time.
This went through the planning board and was all approved without a fire sprinkler system.
No.
No, we
I
had.
don't understand, that's why I'm asking the question.
No, can I?
Hold on, why don't we let him ask the question?
We missed it in the project cost itself.
Can I ask a question?
Counselor Susie, you finished?
I'm working on this deal, yes.
I'm understanding you did include fire suppression, but not one that meets current
Correct.
requirements. So
Right.
they did put in.
Yes, we had everything we
Fire
were supposed to,
suppression,
yes.
but then they found out they needed a more
Addition.
sophisticated system.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's great what's happening. I'm just trying to understand how you went through all this process. Planning board, it was reviewed by probably, through the fire codes and everything else like that.
Right.
And that got missed. Okay. It's great and everything else, I'm just trying to understand,
We-
do we
yeah.
need to tighten up and do something different with the
No,
process?
I will say, when we worked through the city, we met all our codes appropriately, went through everything established appropriately with everybody in place. When we put the redesign and essentially got through everything, it was made to make sure that we met everything. We decided to add and enhance it to make it appropriate.
These numbers that you have here that you laid out, do they all add up to the 120,000?
Would you like it to? Yes, I would like it to.
Coincidentally, right?
No, I know, essentially, as I said, you know, we are aggressive right now. We started this and to meet the requirements, to meet the submission of the application. So we are moving towards getting occupancy to meet the requirements of getting affordable housing in the area. We are encountering some of these upward pressures on costs based on, you know, the timing of any project when things occur, that we normally would see in any kind of development, like fencing. You know, did we establish a number at that time? No, it's occurring. So when I hear that there's $120,000, I'm asking if we could get some assistance here. We will get it done. We are gonna spend the money.
No, I understand that, and I'm all for doing it. I understand what, I wanna, maybe not the word failed is correct, but what happened in the process that was not,
Right. Yeah, it's more with our construction estimates, where we put together with our construction team, and also at the time when the construction development is being put together, in order to be able to put together a project cost and revenue streams that are coming in to meet the requirements of what Invest New Hampshire is allowing you to be able to spend. So we understood some of these things like, you know, radon mitigation, fencing, things like that you would love to throw into the budget, but essentially some of those things are not gonna be covered because of the, you know, they're not essentially to get occupancy in place.
but the
we-
fire suppression system, I
Yeah,
assume
yeah,
would have
and
been
and
covered.
essentially, it was reviewed properly by the city, and it was well done, and essentially by everybody. The building permits, as I said, were very appropriate to get. So there's nothing with the approach, it's just the cost issues that we are encountering at this point in time that we need to cover.
Tom, I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank
I
you.
just
And I-
wanna make sure the
Yeah. Yeah.
process and your estimating team,
Yeah, it's more or less, it's not from a city perspective that's the issue is, it's from our construction review itself, that we find it to be more important to be able to cover, to get this included into the construction costs. It's not from the city. City, I will say, the review was more comprehensive and worked coordination with us step by step to meet the requirements. So essentially, getting us prepared to submit an application, I couldn't ask for a better partner. And again, through the review with the fire department, the city, the planning, everything was done so well. It was able to get there and essentially get us on time. As I said, we're gonna be able to get occupancy done, completed well, so I find that to be important. And to find these funds available. Upon consideration, it's a good option here. A portion of your funding that's available would be great to cover some of our costs, as in any project. And essentially, as I said, this is not just, you know, this is typical on any cost overruns. In our other projects as well, there are costs associated that are never, you know, covered when you know, put down something and you think everything's gonna work well. So, you know, these are things that you handle as a affordable housing developer. Things do occur, we find a way to pay our bills.
Tom, thanks. Councilor
thank you,
Woods.
sir.
Get to the bottom line. What are you asking for in terms of dollars?
Yeah, I would look for your consideration is $120,000. I'm looking at a portion of that, whatever would be
Can you be
appropriate.
specific, Tom?
$30,000 to $40,000 would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments on agenda number 13D? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:47 PM. We've already gone through item number 14A. I'm going to forego my mayor's report this evening because of a busy agenda. Council comments? Seeing none, go right ahead.
If I might, Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if we could get a report at some time in the near future with regards to the historic district overlay, which we have discussed several times. I think it's, I just would hope that we could
Move it along.
move it along. Amend it, whatever, but not let it languish again or further.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I can tell you, Counselor Cheney, is they haven't met since December.
That's
And the
fine.
meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night, so.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
noted.
Yep.
Any other council comments? How about committee reports?
I don't know if we go in order here, or Henry, do you have anything, or?
I think we covered, through the public hearing, the land situation that we'll take up later, I think.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Government operations and ordinances. We had a meeting prior to this city council meeting this evening. 2 items on our agenda. One had to do with Airbnb, and the other had to do with the naming rights of public parks and things like that. On the Airbnb, we've asked the city manager and the city planner to go back and review the ordinance, with, as you might say, tighten it up and make some changes that they've learned over the last couple of years since the ordinance has been in effect. The actions that have taken place, they've learned things that would help us have a better ordinance out there to bring in front of the council, tighten up or give the enforcement a little bit more teeth, and bring that to us hopefully within the next 2 or 3 council meetings.
Terrific.
On the naming, we also had a discussion, we talked with Amy about the Parks and Recs and that thing. We also found a ordinance that was brought to us that's used today in the city of Claremont. Use that as a guideline or as like an outline of what we want to do. City manager's gonna come back to us with a revision of that, and we'll bring that to the council.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? How about liaison reports? Counselor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Lakes Region Public Access has adopted a budget for the following year. The only thing I would like to mention to the council is that, like everything else, or every other department, their expenditures are exceeding their revenues. And at some point in time, I think that going to have to either look at the programming, or they're going to have to look at increasing the fees to the cities and towns. They're reluctant about the cities and towns because as money gets tight, they are concerned that some people may back out or just decide that they need to cut back on their funds. So their annual meeting is going to be in May, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I suspect most members, if not all members of the council, have seen the press release from the police department with regards to their Spider Tech equipment and software that was recently introduced, I believe, and paid for with a grant. I bring it up tonight, and I provide you with a copy of the paperwork from the department. But because I am so impressed with the effort the department has made, both of our public safety departments continually impress me with their efforts. This is a system that automatically responds to people who make a call to the PD. So if we tell you we're sending an officer and then something happens, a traffic accident or whatever, and that car is rerouted to your broken window complaint or something, it will send you a text to tell you the officer's been delayed. As you read this, you'll see it has a lot of other important functions, but I wanted the council to be aware. I think this is, again, at the risk of prattling here, I think our public safety folks do an amazing job, and look forward. They don't just live in the past. They try to make the service we provide to citizens of Laconia better all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Cheney. Okay, if there are no other liaison reports, we'll move along to agenda item 19, which is citizens' requests to comment on current agenda items. If you'd like to comment on current agenda items, now would be the appropriate time. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilors Patrick Wood, Ward 3. I just want to say thank you to all of you. I'm doing my best to follow agendas and what you're all doing, and this particular agenda was so comprehensive. There's so much just in this one meeting that you have to cover. Obviously, the annual account that you've gotten a synopsis of, but there's also a proposed sewer ordinance change. There's a parking study that's been presented, and you're in the midst of reviewing the budget for the city. So there is so much that you are doing, and I just think it's really wonderful to see all the work that you're doing, and I applaud you for those efforts. I also want to give a little shout out to the police department and Chief Canfield in particular. As you know, there were some things written on some of the buildings at the state school recently, and the chief has reached out to the Human Relations Committee spontaneously, to the chairman, and they've had a great conversation, and we greatly appreciate their efforts and their concerns. There's no place that type of activity is acceptable, and it certainly is not acceptable in the city of Laconia, and we greatly appreciate his response, his efforts. So again, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Anyone else like to speak to or comment on current agenda items? Seeing none, move along to agenda item 20, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to start with the monthly economic report. There's not a whole lot of changes to it. You'll see the unemployment rate is up a little bit, but in line with Belknap County and not too far off New Hampshire numbers. Second page is the CPI numbers where we stand. 6.0 again this month. So as I've said, I kind of updated this each month. We're in the 8th straight month that we've seen a decrease in these CPI U numbers. So just as point of reference, last year through the first 2 months, we had annualized out at 7.7%, and we're at 6.2. So certainly seeing a decrease and a difference there. So questions on the project update. This is we'll go a little bit deeper on one of the topics here, but under the road projects, Busby Construction was awarded the contract for the roads, and those will be starting as soon as probably April. The Weirs Boulevard water main project is already begun, and they're continuing to work on that through May. Turn the page, the sewer collection system, which we've talked quite a bit about in Lakeport, more improvements going on in Lakeport, Belvedere, North Street, Sheridan, will all be starting in early May. One of the questions that came up at a previous meeting was if we could get a deeper understanding of where we stand with the Weirs Beach Restoration Project. So I brought our facilities director with us, Amy Levisek, and I just wanted to go through. We've been in conversation. We went back, and me being new into this position, wasn't actually here, it was Kevin Dunleavy that was doing the lead for that for the city. So we went back and looked at where we stand and where we are. Essentially, the recommendations came, they gave us a list of projects to do to try to keep the sand on the beach. And some of this may be a review for you who remembers it, but I had to go back through it, and we went through it to make sure where we stand. Certainly, number one would be to do nothing, which isn't what the city chose to do. The second piece was to set up sand fencing to try to keep blowing sand away out of the channel. One of the problems, the sand is not just going out into the water, it's going out into the channel as well, and has migrated up as far as the Nazwa. So, significant problem there. We've had the fencing up for 2 years, and it really did little to prevent the migration of the sand. So there's a couple of other steps that we can take now. One of them, which is a big project, and that would be to dredge the channel and bring that sand back. That's Army Corps of Engineers. We have reached out to them. We're waiting to hear back. It's something that we believe would be part of something that they would do, but they have not said, yeah, well, absolutely, this would be great. This is a project we do all the time. We'll do it in a year. We're nowhere near there. The next two pieces that are available to us, one would be to build out, if you're standing on the beach, looking out at the water, the jetty that's on the right-hand side needs to be improved and made bigger as one way of keeping the sand in. The second option would be there are ways that we can work through DES for permitting purposes to draw some of that sand and actually dredge it back into the beach itself. Has to be the sand that came off the beach into the water, and it has to be only within the water. Can't be right off the beach, not into the channel. We do have money in a reserve account that we certainly could start in on most likely both of those projects. The numbers that were the last estimates that we were given were almost 10 years ago now, so we all know that costs are going to be significantly different. There are a few bigger options beyond those that we certainly don't have the money to even begin to bid out for those. But I do think that we do have an opportunity for the money that we have in there now to at least open up some bids and see if either of these projects are feasible to do with what we have. It's been a while since we've done anything new other than the fence, so that's really where it stands as of right now.
Thank you, Kurt. Amy, would you like to add something?
He pretty much got all of it, but the only difference, the jetty, putting in the jetty will not again stop the waves and the water movement from moving the sand. Even with the new jetty, it would still require the back passing, bringing the sand back over to we'll call it the dock side of the beach area. If you were to walk in the beach right now, it's very, very sandy, and it's lovely and luxurious on the jetty side because all of it has moved over there. So, and the other side is very rocky. So our plan would be to manually back pass that back over with DES approval. So he got pretty much all of it.
Hey, Amy, if I might, excuse me. Listening to potential solutions, none of them sound like that'll solve the problem. Am I incorrect in that?
You are not incorrect. This is not a natural beach. This is a man-made beach. And so the water moves. It does it with every beach. I mean, Bond Beach had the same issue. Bartlett's the same. You know, they all tend to erode and they move. The sand moves. The wind blows it. Weirs Beach specifically, because of all of the water erosion that we get with the runoff coming down off that hill, the water comes up and bubbles instead of going through the drainage. It actually bubbles up because the drains can't handle all of that runoff. So it bubbles up and it erodes a lot of the sand right into the beach area. If you were to come down after a heavy storm, you'll see the divots that we get every time, and you can see it all out into the swim area. That's where the sand went. So the plan would be to move that back up.
Should we seek someone to help us design a plan to stop it, or is it a waste of?
I believe that was the plan. That was the fix. We had that study done before,
Yep.
and this was the fix. It just can't handle the amount.
But it's not a permanent fix.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
There's no permanent fix.
There is not.
It's
It's
plan
gonna
that,
have to
all right, that-
constantly be moved back.
this is moving down the line that plan has said for suggested repairs
Yep.
or fixes.
There's nothing that's permanently going to leave the sand where it
Okay,
is.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Amy.
You're
Any other
welcome.
questions? No, thank you.
It's our own mini version of erosion.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start putting money aside
Send
a
the
little
bill to
bit
the,
each year.
wonder what the sand erosion does to the channel, it was the state jump in.
So, Moving on to, thank you, Kirk. Moving on to agenda item 21, new business. 21A is a request for a building permit on a private road for lot 23.1 Heritage Road. I see Dean here. Would you like to maybe walk us through this, Dean?
Heritage Road is a road that was approved by the planning board in early 60s. City has never accepted the street. It is currently classified as a private road. There are 5 or 6 houses on it now, and there are 2 or 3 defined lots at the unimproved end of that street. City does not provide any services. It does not plow, does not grade, does not do anything on this street. So under those circumstances, in order to build on one of the empty lots, they need approval from the city council for the building permit, which my discussions with Wes Anderson at DPW and us, we don't have any objections to that occurring. We have 3 conditions that we have outlined for you. If you so choose to approve, that we would like those 3 conditions included. And they also got to do the waiver of liability, which is, we'll make sure they do that as well.
So you have no problem with the building on those parcels, just that it's going to be contingent on
This
these 3
particular
conditions?
parcel of where it's located is just, they got to extend the road about 100 feet. If it was another parcel that was much further up, I think it would be a different situation, but in this case, it's just move the road another 100 feet, but, you know, it's not our road, so it's up to them to get it up to some type of a standard.
Right, okay. Counselor Susie?
Dean, where is Heritage Road located?
Heritage Road is off of Endicott Street East, 11B, sorry. It's part of the Colonial and Plantation project. It's pretty much across the street from Pendleton Beach Road. That general area goes up the hill. It's all dirt roads up there.
Right, but is this, we offer no service that's there at all?
On Heritage, we do nothing. On Colonial and Plantation, we do plowing and we do some grading.
Right, is this another area where we're gonna have some serious drainage problems that we're gonna have to go in there with
We currently have serious drainage issues on Colonial and Plantation, and they do to some degree on Heritage, but the property owners there take care of it. We don't.
Yeah, but is there a situation there for us to come in with emergency services that we would have to do something?
I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
No, I don't, I mean, if in the middle of the winter someone's there and they had an emergency and for whatever reason the road hasn't been plowed or whatever, then, you know, our guys will do, you know, fire department or DPW, I mean, we'll do what we have to do to get the emergency services there. But for that particular road, Heritage, we have not declared it as an emergency lane. It is strictly, we're doing 0.
It's completely private. I know one of the owners, and he's the one that takes care of everything up there.
I just wonder why, Tony, sometimes we're doing these things, we're just not taking a position of bring it to city standards, because at some point in time, we're gonna end up eating it.
I don't think
So
that's,
let me go right ahead.
that's not the matter before us, it's really because it's a private
Right.
road.
No, I understand that, Henry, that's,
Thank you, Dean. Any further questions for Dean? No? Seeing none, so what we have on the agenda right now is, as we heard, Dean Trefethan, our planning and code director, recommends the city council approve the building permit application with the 3 conditions noted. The motion, looking for a move to approve the issuance of building permit, a building permit for lot 23.1 on Heritage Road, providing 3 conditions are adhered to. 1, the waiver of liability must be executed and filed at the registry. 2, the section of road in front of 23.1 Heritage Road must be improved to the same level as the current sections of the road. And 3, the drainage plan must be approved by the Department of Public Works.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Councilor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this?
if Dean could come back up. So in terms of your conditions, would they be written in any more detail than what is in the motion?
The waiver is a form we have.
Yeah, the way, I'm talking about it's sort of, I think, a little bit ambiguous to the same level as the current sections.
Heritage Road is not a fantastic road. When it was built, it was probably a minimal construction. People have done a little bit to it over the years, but
I guess, how, if I could, how would the person know that they've met that standard?
I think that's going to be a decision that Public Works and us will come to when they,
Before any building is done.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll agree on what level they've got to improve to.
So could we amend this to say, subject to the approval of the Public Works Department? Item number 2, I think it's 2.
Sure.
That sound all right?
So,
One last question.
hold on
Mr.
one,
Mayor.
hold on one second before I get confused.
Number 2 of the
Number 2,
conditions
yeah, a section, of-
would be also subject to the approval of the Department of Public Works.
yes, okay. Counselor Susie?
One last question. It says, a drainage plan must be approved by the Department of Public Works. That the plan must be approved. How about the actual drainage?
Oh, when they do the construction, yes, we do inspections through the course of their construction.
Okay, not just a plan. You can actually have pipe or drainage in the ground.
Yeah, whatever is deemed to be necessary, right.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll
'Cause that
probably be a
doesn't tell me
drainage,
that when
it'll
I
probably be a
see that,
drainage
that's-
ditch more than a pipe, but, yeah.
What you're really saying, a plan and construction.
Right. Yeah. I'd give you a plan, a piece of paper. It doesn't mean
3,
I have to do it.
item number 3, then, for clarity, is a drainage plan must be drainage plan must be approved, and construction must be approved by the Department of Public Works.
Good.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none,
I'm the owner of lot 23.1.
hold on one second here. I think we've passed that now for the opportunity. I don't want to shut you out on this, but
Give 'em a second.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
if you'd like to come up and have a chat,
All right, yes, thank you.
that's okay. Come right up.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Joseph Sample. I own the lot 23.1. I know that Dean said that the road would have to be extended up and through. It's been a pretty unfinished road. I do believe on the town plot plan, Heritage Road does go up into the end of my property on the observed roads on the GIS mapping. So extension, I think, would be acceptable. I think conditioning of the road would be just as acceptable too, because it is shown as being continued up to the end of my lot line. So it's not like we're creating a road, it's shown as being on our road. That was one of the conditions for me to actually buy the lot, is it had to have road frontage. So it already has road frontage, so it just has to be improved, because Heritage Road actually ends at my lot, and then the property that borders the road and is adjacent to 11B actually comes up in behind the end of Heritage Road, and it's a privately owned piece of land at the end of Heritage Road, so there is no other lots that can be built on besides mine on Heritage Road.
Yep.
That's all I would just like to state there.
Okay, is that consistent with, yes, okay. I appreciate you stepping forward and speaking.
Sorry, I didn't know that I was supposed to step forward a little earlier.
No,
My
that's,
apologies.
that's,
Thank
that's
you.
quite all right. I'm glad you raised your hand.
And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now, having no further questions or discussion on this, all those in favor of the motion on the table right now, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
We just have the clerk read it back, to make sure.
Yeah, that would be nice too.
So we have, Counselor Felch made a motion to approve the issuance of a building permit for lot 23.1 on Heritage Road, providing 3 conditions are adhered to. 1, the waiver of liability must be executed and filed at the registry. 2, the section of the road in front of lot 23.1, Heritage Road, must be improved to the same level as current sections of road, must be approved by the Department of Public Works. Number 3, A drainage plan and the construction must be approved by the Department of Public Works, seconded by Counselor Cheney.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Good luck. Agenda item 21B. Under new business, which is Resolution 2023-10, accept an award in the amount of $107,888 from the Homeland Security Grant Program for police surveillance towers and related equipment. 2021, Laconia Police Department applied to the New Hampshire Department of Safety for grant funding for the purchase of monitoring platforms with surveillance towers and related equipment. The application was prospectively awarded in June 2022, and final approval was granted in December 2022. The requested equipment will increase intelligence gathering and surveilling capabilities at large-scale events, enhancing community safety during an active threat. Acceptance of this award will allow the police department to move forward with this procurement. This award was included in the anticipated grant list filed with the fiscal year 23 annual budget. Consequently, a public hearing for the acceptance of this grant was held on June 13th, 2022, as part of the hearing for Resolution 2022-08. The entire cost of this equipment is covered by the 2022 Homeland Security Grant. There is no local match requirement. This was submitted by Glenn Smith, the Finance Director, with a recommendation of acceptance of the grant. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2023-10 relative to the acceptance of an award in the amount of $107,888 from the Homeland Security Grant Program for police surveillance towers and related equipment as presented, and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this grant. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion?
I just think if we could show the picture of what we're talking about here. When we say towers, I think it's a little bit
When they say tower.
overstated as to what it really
That's
is.
that's why I brought pictures, because of
Thank
that
you.
reason.
I just want the public to, I don't know if there's a way to put that up there. If you can't, then maybe we could.
Hold it up in the air.
Well,
And when you post the minutes, maybe you could include,
Yeah. It's more of a portable device. It probably would look like,
Like a portable light tower on wheels, like
Yes.
you'd see around Motorcycle Week, that type of a
but with
size.
the ability with an extended arm, a
Telescope-
telescoping arm,
arm.
yes.
but it's not a.
It's not a
I think
drone.
when you say a surveillance tower, it kind of pictures something much bigger and more pronounced.
So,
You see it on there?
Yeah,
See it
if
on
you
the
just
TV?
tilt it a little bit, the glare. Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, that's fine.
okay, thank you, Eddie. So with the
Har-
motion on the
hardly a
table,
tower.
is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
It's like a periscope. Solar powered.
Solar powered periscope.
Item number 21C. It's a request to transfer $100,000 to the non-capital reserve account for the purpose of funding the Academy Street Bridge Replacement Project. In fiscal year 2022, the City Council approved the expenditure of $100,000 for the Academy Street Bridge project. Due to the timing of the project, funds were not expended in fiscal year 2022. In June 2022, the council rolled these funds into the fiscal year 23 contingency account with the intent of moving the funds into the non-capital reserve until such time as the project is ready to begin. There's no fiscal impact. These funds are currently budgeted. Glenn Smith, the finance director, submitted this. He recommends authorizing the transfer of $100,000 as proposed. Looking for your
Ask a
question.
technical question first. It's just a little confusing the way it's written. And where does the money reside at the moment?
In a rollover from last fiscal
In-
year.
But it's not in the capital reserve fund. Isn't, two things need to happen to get it to where you want it to go.
The council can move the money into the capital. Right now, it's sitting in the contingency account, what we call the 499 rollover accounts. This will authorize staff to file the paperwork to move that money physically into your,
So there's not 3 accounts, it's just between 2 accounts.
that's correct, it's between 2 accounts. And further, it commits the funds, once they're in the non-capital reserve, to this one project.
Yeah,
So
no,
they can't then be repurposed without your permission.
I don't have any issue with it, I just wanted to make sure it was a complete motion.
Are you satisfied with language as it is right now?
Based on the explanation, yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So right now, looking for a motion to authorize the transfer of $100,000 to the non-capital reserve account for the purpose of funding the Academy Street Bridge Replacement Project. So made by Councilor Susie, seconded by Councilor Littman. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Has that been postponed?
Yes.
So that's gonna be year
2024 now.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
One more, Mr. Mayor. When you say federal, does that include the state?
Is that any state money or is it all?
The construction portion of Academy Street Bridge is 100% federal funded, but all the preliminary work is still a state share and our share.
Okay, all right, yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice.
Any further questions? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Item number 21D, which is ordinance 2023-194-2, 194-5, proposed changes to the city's solid waste ordinances in support of the conversion to automated solid waste collection. Kirk, would you like to walk us through this just a little bit?
Yeah, this is an ordinance cleanup, so we have an ordinance with solid waste now. With what has been approved over the course of the last many months that has come to the council, we now had to convert this into a new ordinance. So this is just to put everything that's been agreed upon for the solid waste and recycling, curbside pickup into the ordinance and make the adjustments that no longer are appropriate for the current ordinance.
Okay, so the changes include the following. Eliminates the requirements for household and commercial properties to provide their own cans and the size requirements for those cans. Adds the requirement that solid waste containers provided as part of the conversion to automated collection belong to the city and remain with the property whenever the property is sold or a tenant relocates. Adds the requirement that properties with dumpsters will not receive city curbside solid waste collection services. Eliminates the remote recycling program. Changes the maximum quantity of containers based on the standard container sizes the city is providing to property owners. And finally, eliminates the excess trash sticker program that allowed a single-family resident to put out an extra solid waste container for a fee. Public Works recommends that the City Council approve the proposed changes to the solid waste ordinance that is attached to our agenda this evening. The fiscal impact, it eliminates the cost of providing containers and collecting solid waste from properties with dumpsters. So right now, before you have a series of 3 motions. The first is to move to waive a reading of ordinance 2023-194.2, 194.5 in its entirety, and to read by title only. So made.
Motion to table, because I'm not sure this is at a public vetting in terms of a couple of changes here, like removing the remote recycling program and no longer being able to dispose of excess garbage. I think those are new items to the public.
Motion table is non-debatable. Is there a second? Seeing none. Seeing none, I guess I'm gonna proceed. I don't vote, but there's a lot going on with this that I don't.
I think we had a public hearing, and I think that was addressed.
There's Yeah, I mean, we can go back and look at it because we've already ordered, we've already moved on.
I understand the major pieces of it and, you know, the mailings that have come to the homes and things like that, but and maybe I missed a meeting that it's a surprise to me. We're eliminating remote recycling and not giving an opportunity to be able to get out any extra trash if you happen to be a large family or what have you.
Well, and I can say this was discussed in committee, and actually I brought up the extra sticker at the meeting.
That's the one motion. So so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Again.
Might be okay. We're back in session at 8:29 PM. Moving on to item number 21E, which is ordinance 2022-189, proposed changes to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 189, sewers. Would you like to take us through this just a little bit here and begin the discussions here? I mean,
Not read this word for word, is that what?
I don't think we need to read it word for word,
So-
and I think it's going to take, obviously, a couple sessions for us to work through this and
Yeah.
get everyone comfortable with it, so.
So last year, there was a public hearing about the proposed sewer ordinance related to private sewer systems. It's the one question that keeps coming up about should we address, or how should we address the private sewer systems? In the latest sanitary sewer fund budget for FY '25, so a year not in this current year that we're trying to budget for now, there is some funds set aside for potential private sewer system inspection, and then what? And that's the what that we're trying to fill in now as to how far it goes. We really need a public hearing. We want to try to get as many of the private sewer system owners in here as we can to speak. There's been some success with it in the past, and there's been difficulty in trying to do that. We have met with the Public Works Committee on this, and the recommendation was to try to do a public hearing in July so we can try to get some of the summer resident, private sewer residents, which a lot of them are summer, up here for this, and then we can work through that. As far as any of the technical details, Wes is here if you have anything, but that's the, overarching piece of this at this point.
Thank you, Kirk. So if there's a desire with the council to have Wes address some of these issues or walk us through this in any way, you make that request now. Otherwise, we have a motion here, which is to move it to a continuation of a public hearing on July 24th, 2023. So it's going to take some time to work through it here. Should we move to motion to continue this to July 2023? Okay.
Yes.
So we're looking for a motion to move the city council, schedule a continuation of the public hearing on the proposed sewer ordinance for July 24th, 2023. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
So if I could ask the manager a question, in terms of the drafting of the ordinance, aside from sort of the technical expertise that Public Works brings to it, what other expertise do we bring to the drafting?
I did very little of when it related to the drafting of it, so I would have to look towards Wes myself on this.
Basically, we hired a consultant to update all our sewer ordinance based off the current Environmental Protection Agency regulations, current New Hampshire DES regulations. So it's basically bringing it up to the current standards of what's required upon us.
Can I ask who the consultant was?
Underwood.
Can we, just because I think these have potential material obligations on people to understand the expertise for the public to know what their background is to support us. I'm glad that you did have some support in drafting this.
We also do have a few legal questions out there that have come up through the Public Works Committee that we are getting answered. We'll have it in months ahead of that.
Yeah, I just think it's, with something so extensive, people need to understand who was, what the expertise is behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Wes, one other question. Does this relate to the discussions we've had off and on about having to have the sewers all inspected?
Yes.
How that's gonna get funded?
Actually, it's a bigger picture than that. All collection systems in the city must meet EPA standards. One portion of that is the requirement for a collection system to be inspected, not necessarily annually, but sufficiently for the age and condition of the system. So that portion was addressed in the plan for fiscal year '25, but we still have all the other EPA requirements that are imposed upon us. That's what this ordinance will address.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah, Councilor Lippman, go right ahead. Councilor
So I guess my question, again, just based on the depth and scope of this, is whether we could have, before public hearing, we could have like a question and answer type session that would be able to let, rather than people having to take a adversarial or a pro position on any of this, is a chance to have some dialogue and have questions and answers. That way, it isn't sort of like a hearing in the traditional sense. We would have that ultimately, but I think sort of like
Have a public meeting.
a public meeting to have sort of questions and answers, have the expert who helped us draft this to be on hand, so that when we get to a public hearing, people will be more informed in terms of being able to testify.
On a different night than a council meeting,
Yeah.
I agree.
It's a great idea.
Also, what the costs are gonna be that these people are gonna have to incur, or we're gonna have to incur.
Okay?
Yep, got it.
Thank you.
And thank you for engaging a professional to support you.
All right, so moving on to item 21F. It's a request to schedule a meeting of the Laconia Airport Appointive Agency. A request was received from Laconia Airport Manager Marv Everson to schedule a meeting of the Laconia Airport Appointive Agency for the purpose of conducting interviews and appointing members to the Laconia Airport Authority. So we're looking to move to schedule a Laconia Airport Authority appointive agency meeting for April 10th, 2023 at 6:30 PM here in council chambers of Laconia City Hall. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? There's something you have a question about.
Back to item 21E, could you please ask everyone if they're in favor?
Oh, why not? Back to item number 21E.
Picky.
I know, if you're in favor, let us know. It's 5 votes in the affirmative, and it's about time, right? Thank you, Katie. All right.
Gotta have a woman keep us on our toes, right?
Somebody keep us on our toes. Thank you, sorry.
It was Tony that brought it up, so I don't think we just voted on that. Actually, we didn't.
Yeah, okay. So this motion, did anyone motion?
Yes.
The
second.
Who was the first? Counselor Haynes?
second.
I was the first, he was the
Counselor
second.
Susie, Counselor Haynes, any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 22, which is unfinished business. Agenda item 22A, potential purchase of the state-owned discontinued rail corridor, which we had a public hearing on this morning. The Lakeshore Spur is a 3.63 acre
Long day.
of state-owned discontinued rail corridor, part of the Concord Lincoln Corridor, and Laconia City has the right of first refusal from the state of New Hampshire on this property. This matter was discussed at the February 27th, 2023 City Council meeting. At that meeting, a motion was approved to send an expression of interest letter to the state. That letter was sent to Commissioner William Cass at New Hampshire Department of Transportation on the February 28th, 2023. The Finance Subcommittee met to review and discuss this potential purchase on March 16th, 2023. I'd look to Councilor Lippman maybe to lead us through what went on at that meeting.
So I think in terms of the property, there are 5 sections to the potential acquisition. I think that the first order of priority is to protect the water inlet for our drinking water for the city. Then I think with respect to the rest of it, I think there was an interest to do a little research with respect to what was the best way to acquire in whole. I think was the interest that we talked about at the committee. I think that from the hearing, and there's still some open items that we need to review with council with respect to the city's potential consideration of this, and potentially some clarifications with the state. So I think for purposes of tonight, I think it's not ready to be voted on. There's no proposed motion here yet, but I think that there is an interest. We also talked about the proper procedure if we were to not retain the entire piece, so that we would need to go through procedurally with respect to surplus property procedures that are in our ordinances. And as we heard tonight, there was a party of interest. So I think we have a little bit more to go before this is ripe for a full consideration.
Right, but the committee wanted to move ahead and tell the state, we want to take it all, we want to buy it all.
I think that we've sent in a letter of interest to that effect, correct?
We've sent a letter that we're interested, and that's as far as it's gone at that point, but we have exercised our right of first refusal, if you will, to put us in the
That's
mix.
what I wanted to hear. We haven't done that.
I did that immediately, yep.
We've protected that right.
Yep.
Okay.
So as we continue to tie up loose ends, we'll say, on the city's end, and with the anticipation of making some sort of formal offer, I would anticipate, maybe just let the Commissioner DOT know that that's what we're doing, just to
Yep,
keep
no,
the line of
that's
communication
fine.
open.
I've been in contact with him as late as this afternoon, so we'll continue that going.
We still have a little more work to do.
Yep.
Okay. In regards to this, we don't have a motion. We,
I think we're just,
anyway.
I don't know if we need to table it
I don't
per
know if we
se,
need
but
to table it
there's
or
no action yet. I think maybe just view this as a report at this juncture.
Okay, terrific. Okay. Moving on to item number 22B, which is regards to Resolution 2023-07 relative to readopting and setting the amounts established for the optional on all veterans' property tax credit, House Bill 1667, amended RSA 72:28 and RSA 72:28 dash small b, expanding the optional and all veterans' property tax credit to eligible active duty veterans not yet discharged. Due to the passage of HB 1667, it is now necessary for the city to readopt the optional provision of RSA 72:28, standard optional veterans tax credit in the amount of $500, effective April 1st, 2023, and to readopt the all veterans credit of RSA 72:28 dash small b, all veterans tax credit in the amount of $500. If not readopted, the veterans credits would revert back to the $50 standard credit. The March 13, 2023 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing in this matter. That public hearing was held earlier in this evening's agenda. And Councilor Cheney, would you like to just express something before we go any further?
I would. I'd like to express, I'd like to offer an amendment that this motion includes the decision to increase the benefit to $600. It's been $500 for as long as I can remember. I mean, I got back here in '68, so I'd like
So
to.
would you suggest someone else makes that motion and there's a second? Will you be voting on
I
those
will
motions?
not. I'll make the motion.
All right.
Oh,
I thought we had discussed, and maybe I'm conflating this with another one, that is to raise it each year by the same amount that the,
CPI.
that the tax cap percentages increased.
I think we did, but I wouldn't have a problem raising it a little bit right now.
But my question on that, Councilor Lippman, is it seems like a minimal amount that we'd be going up every year, right?
So I think
4%.
Tony's idea of going to, Councilor Felch's idea to increase it to $600 and then inflate it.
And then go up incrementally.
And go up, inflate it. I think we have up to $750, is that right?
Right.
Correct.
Well, we have up to what we want it to be.
No,
No.
you have up to 750. So at some point, that escalator would cap out.
Or how often do we have to redo this?
Probably anytime you want.
Every
Yeah,
year?
you could do it anytime. You don't have to do it. The only reason you have to do it here is because of the RSA change. Otherwise, you would just leave it as is.
I was.
Or
that's what I was
I
suggesting.
do it yearly, or
Why don't we
biannually,
keep
or
it simple? It seems like we should just, let's move it to 600.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Hold on, Tony, hold on, Counselor Felch. Let's move it to 600, I would suggest. And then, is there any reason why we shouldn't just move it $50 per year for the next
Till
3 years
max.
and get to 750? I mean, it seems like a nominal amount, but obviously, when we heard Mr. Bellevue this evening, and I think he's spot on, some of these folks are on fixed incomes and that $40 a month or $50, whatever it is, it's significant. And if it's going to really impact our revenues here and affect us in some significant way, I guess we can have a further discussion. But it seems like if we've got the ability to do it, why not do it for the veterans that put the uniform on and served? It's my 2 cents on this.
I will amend my motion to accept that.
$50 a year.
$50 a year till a max of $750.
Henry, you're finance too, and I want to be respectful of that.
No,
Excuse me, Counselor Lippman.
That's fine. I guess I just want to be clear, what you're saying is moving it to 600.
600.
And then, so that'd be 600 as we prepare the budget for '24. Another 50 added in '25 and so forth,
Right.
till we reach the cap.
That sounds good to me.
All right. Yes, that's what I had suggested. Sounds like, Counselor Susie, that's consistent with what you heard, and you'd make the motion for
Right.
that.
I just have one other question,
Yeah.
please. Maybe somebody can make clarification to me, but I read discussion, and it says, all veterans' property tax credit to eligible active duty veterans not yet discharged.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody like Mr. Robichaud, and I'm not sure if he's still here or not, But it's been discharged, that means it doesn't participate in this?
No, no.
No.
No, it means that
I'm trying to just make
if you're
sure
a
that's
property,
clear.
if you're a property owner and you're active, you can take advantage of the program. That's how I read it.
Yeah.
I'm mistaken.
It's two pieces, that's why it had to be put in. One allows all veterans to get this tax
Okay.
credit. Currently, or before this bill got passed, if you were in the military actively serving, you didn't get the credit.
Why?
Because that's the way the RSA read. But now, this allows you to do, to get both. So the councils for each community has to approve, one, the optional veterans tax credit, which we already do, but we have to re-adopt that, and then add
Okay.
this new piece
Thank
in
you.
as well.
I'm fine with that.
And I'll second it.
All right, so let's, this may be we're looking at a series of 3 motions. This may be a 4th motion, right, that we add to this? Am I correct here to put this dollar amount in place?
Yeah.
Can we do that by amending this motion?
I'm wondering.
I'm looking at what I'm just rereading
Number 2, probably.
yeah, you could,
Actually, you could add number 3 on page.
Yeah, number 3,
on-
because it talks about
On the,
amounts.
resolution itself.
yep, yeah, that would be the easiest way to do it, and I think your motion would actually,
Motion's
the motion would stand as is, the 3 motions, but you would just add,
Change the dollar amount on the
in,
actual.
in a
okay.
number 3, you'd add a number 3
Gotcha.
to the resolution.
So effective April 1 of '24 would go to 600,
Yes.
and then $50 increments each year or thereafter. So we'll be capped at 750.
Right, so in year 27 is when it goes to cap.
So it'd be fiscal year.
So we're at $500 for April 1st, 2023. 600 April 1st, no, well,
Yeah, we're preparing the '24 budget, we can build it in.
Right.
yes, okay.
Right.
But you said effective April 1st of 2024, which
We
would
go
be
to
the
600.
2025 budget, right?
Right, 20, we could change that to 20,
Yes.
to 600 now, because that's for the oncoming
We
budget.
can't do it for this April
No.
1.
No, we would do it for April of 24,
24.
the FY 24 budget, which is what we're preparing right now.
Okay.
If,
I think if the change happens in April 24, it'll hit the it'll hit the FY 25 budget.
Right, that's why I was saying, we could do it for 23, because it'll be the 24 budget.
We've already,
What kind of impact would that have if we went to 600?
I know you've already-
93,000 to our tax credits. That's what we'll be factoring in as additional.
Additional 93,000?
Well, the budget we're preparing right now, to be adopted in July, that's where we would, approximately.
I think that's the way we should do it, the way the manager described.
So you see, that's fiscal year 23, 24.
The tax bill that's gonna be generated for April's tax bill, or whatever, will be based on adopting
What we're preparing right now.
what's here, and then the next one would move it to 600, and the following
Okay.
one.
Okay, so you're doing 500 on this one.
Adopting, it, yeah, because I think
We're
we're kinda-
adopting the
because
RSA.
basically, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have number
got
3 on
confused
this? Do you have enough clarity on that, Katie,
Let's make
on
sure.
this motion?
I got a little confusion on this too, actually.
Well, so you said that we're gonna add a number 3 to the resolution,
Correct.
Yes.
and that's gonna start April 1st of 2024, of increasing it to $600. And then you wanna add $50 each year until we max out at $750.
Right.
That's what I heard.
Right, but don't we have to say something about the fiscal year 23, 24 to bring it to 500 to meet the RSA?
Yes.
Already
That's
in.
Yes,
built in here.
that's,
That's number 2.
that stays as is, so this current April 1st, they're gonna receive $500. April 1st of 2024 would be 600.
Yep.
And then marched out $50 from there, so so the budget you'll be seeing in a
Yep.
few weeks will have the new numbers for next year's budget.
Right, we're not changing what's here, we're
Right.
just adding to it.
Okay, all right. Katie, you good?
Yes.
Okay.
Got all that?
So we have a series of 3 motions here. Counselor Cheney, you are going to recuse yourself from
I am.
voting on all of these?
Yes, would you like me to step
No,
out
not
there?
at all. No, I just want to make sure it's clear on the record that there's no
Okay.
confusion on that. So, right now I'm looking for a motion to waive a reading of Resolution 2023-07 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 4 votes to the affirmative. That motion passes. Second, we're looking to move a second reading of Resolution 2023-07 relative to readopting and setting the amounts established for the optional veterans and all veterans property tax credits as presented. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Littman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 4 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, we're looking to move to approve Resolution 2023-07 relative to readopting and setting the amounts established for the optional veterans and all veterans property tax credits as presented. Counselor Littman makes the motion, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please indicate by your favor by raising your hands. It's 4 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
Should I just ask Mr. Mayor that the record reflect I abstained from?
Hearing it.
She's got it.
And the record shall reflect.
Thank you.
Item number 22C, it's a request to submit a grant application to the Federal Emergency Management for a fire prevention and safety grant. If awarded, this request is to accept $116,057 from the Federal Emergency Management Agency for a fire prevention and safety grant to fund a 1-year full-time fire prevention community risk reduction position. This position will focus on multifamily rentals inspections, mechanical inspections, and public education. This position will also help the fire department meet the increasing fire prevention demands due to the continued growth in Laconia, including the Laconia State School property. At the March 13, 2023 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing in this matter. That public hearing was held earlier this evening, in this evening's agenda. Fiscal impact. The city's share of this grant is 5%, or $5,802.85. This grant acceptance is recommended due to the existing 286 multifamily rental properties and the projected growth and development of Laconia. Right now, I'll be looking for a series of 3 motions to work through. First one is to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2023-08 in its entirety and read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Second, again, to move a second reading of Resolution 2023-08 relative to authorizing application and acceptance of a grant application to the Federal Emergency Management Agency for a fire prevention and safety grant in the amount of $116,057. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking to move to approve Resolution 2023-08 relative to authorizing application and acceptance of a grant application to the Federal Emergency Management Agency for a fire prevention and safety grant in the amount of $116,057. And to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this grant. So made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. That's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to item number 22D, Delta, Resolution 2023-09 relative to acceptance of Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Award, MPU 22-100 grant in the amount of $120,000. The city has been awarded a grant in the amount of $120,000 from the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Program. The grant funds are for the Pearly Pond 57 Blueberry Lane application. At the March 13, 2023 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing in this matter, which was held earlier this evening. There are no matching funds required from the city in relation to this grant. To move a second reading of Resolution 2023-09 relative to accepting a grant in the amount of $120,000 from the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Program for the Pearly Pond 57 Blueberry Lane Amendment. Do we have the motion? Is someone first and second on the motion yet? No.
Well, the first motion, yeah.
The first, not the second, though.
Not the amended motion.
So we've got to put the motion on the table. Is there a first on this motion? Item number 2, right? And then we can amend it. So,
And he's gone way over $30,000.
right, but he said he needed, he does, but on 57 Blueberry Lane, after notified response and interest in that. Okay, no motion on the table there. I would suggest that under item number 22E, which is the discussion of downtown urban planning parking study, I would like to perhaps skip the discussion on that and send it to committee for a further discussion on this. And that committee would be Public Works, I think.
Okay.
It fits in there.
Yep.
We'll send that there, maybe schedule a public meeting on that, just to have a further discussion on what we've got for that report.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
If I could just ask that is done as soon as we can,
Yes.
because the direction for what I'm putting in for the next year's budget into the parking garage, I need to know relatively soon, for my presentation by the end of the month
So
with the budget.
So we can meet before the next meeting.
Would that be, if we can do that, that'd be great. Schedule a public meeting on
That's
that.
fine, I'd be looking for guidance on the
Yes.
parking garage, just the direction to go that night.
We did schedule for the 10th, the airport authority, so just
At 6:30, right?
6:30, yeah.
And I was
wonder if
told that should take 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So-
right. I wonder if this is something we could do at 6 o'clock on that night, if you were, if that committee were available, but whatever, whatever works on your schedules.
I'm okay.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 o'clock?
Yeah, you're the man.
Will that be enough time, or do we want to do 5:30?
Leave that up to you.
Just,
We can continue it if it isn't.
Okay. Right now, it's gonna tentatively be for 6 PM on Monday, April 10th.
Yeah.
Discuss that downtown.
I'll make that a quick
You got
thing. I'm
that?
at an early flight.
Yep, no, we can do
Public
that.
Works, April 10th?
Yeah, we'll get
Okay.
that sent out as a reminder, to
That's
everybody.
Concludes our agenda, and I'll adjourn the meeting at 9:01 PM. Thank you all.